Day four. I think, welcome. We have a bit of background piano music in this video, and you've probably worked out I recorded them all in sequence because I'm wearing the same outfit. But that's how my world rolls. Today we're talking about posture and core, and I'm going to add in a word called alignment. And I would so love you to understand the difference between these words that are thrown around with no real meaning. Everyone thinks to have a good back, you need to have good posture. And that can be true. But what's actually more important is good alignment. And let's talk about the difference, or at least the difference in my mind. Posture refers to, are we curved or are we straight? There's a belief that if you're straight, you have good posture. If you're hunched, you have bad posture, which I prefer to think of. A better way of thinking about it is, does our body have the ability to move through full extension and full flexion? Then it's okay. Where it chooses to hang out as its default might be more of a flexion-based posture. And an extension-based posture has a few more benefits than a flexion-based posture. But what matters more is, can it move through full range, and does it get an opportunity to do that frequently throughout the day? It's a bit like our feet. We can have flat feet, but if they know how to supinate and they get the opportunity to do that frequently throughout the day, then it doesn't really matter that they tend to prefer to be flatter than higher. Bodies were designed for moving, and where they choose to hang out at their default posture is not too much of an issue if you're moving a lot, because you're never still. That's how I view it anyway. So I'm never too bothered by someone's resting posture. I am interested in what's the available range of their skeletal structure. How much can they actually access movement? Can they kind of move from here to here and that's it? Or do they have this full mobility through their body? We also know that posture, we used to think, certainly when I went to uni, I was taught to improve someone's posture, particularly if they were hunched and curved, that it would be a good idea to stretch their pecs, strengthen up their back muscles, and that would be improving their posture. What I now know through postural neurology, through brain-based studies, is that the balance in our bodies between our flexor tone, or the front of our bodies, and our extensor tone is dependent upon the outputs that are coming from our brain to our skeletal structure, and that it is responding to the brain outputs, which is responding to the stimulus that comes in. So I may choose to stretch my pecs and strengthen my back muscles because it feels good and it's nice and it's lovely to have that capability, but it's not going to affect my resting tone in my posture at all, because to do that, I need to stimulate the extensor tone centers in my brain more than I stimulate the flexor tone aspects of my brain. And we can see this when someone's in a unfortunate, spinal unit in the hospital. If they've had any sort of brain damage that has affected their flexor tone balance, then they will either be in full extensor tone or full flexor tone. And we see that with spasticity, with different conditions that affect the tone in our muscles. So I gave up long ago trying to improve posture through the traditional means. And now I look at posture truly, what do I need to stimulate in the brain to maximize the output of this person's posture? And I know that the three biggest drivers of stimulus into the right parts of the brain are the eyes, which we talked about in our morning routine video, our ears, our vestibular centers, and our feet, which is why we did that video outside on different sensory surfaces to maximize the stimulation of your foot receptors, to give you some ocular movement. And the ears, we incorporate later if they're a problem. We can specifically tone up your vestibular inputs if required. So why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this because if you're still going to a movement teacher, a physio, a personal trainer who thinks to improve your posture, you have to do pec stretches and rhomboid exercises, I would be suggesting there's a faster, more efficient way to improve your posture. And we're thinking about improving our posture for our back. Is that what we're doing? Because you can have crap posture and not be in back pain. So just question what your intention is anyway. But since it's a topic that keeps coming up, I chose to put it in our 5-day challenge. I'm going to show you the best way that I have come across to upregulate your extensor tone in the brain so that you can be biased towards more of an upright extensor posture more often. I'm doing that because I figure in our day-to-day life, especially if we're sitting, reaching forward, carrying things, sleeping in curled positions, our flexor tone is getting stimulated sufficiently. Most of us have a flexor tone bias, and we really need to be stimulating our extensor tone bias more. So first thing is to do that is to do what I call the starfish exercise, which is one of my all-time favorites because all you need is a flat wall, which actually is really hard to find depending on where you live. I've got a nice big handle in the way here, but I'm trying to stay centered, so I'm just going to pretend it's not there. What we do is we find, again, bare feet if we can, about this far away from the wall, and then we lean into the wall. And we try and feel the wall contacting the whole of the back of our body, our dorsal skin surfaces, the back of our head, the back of our shoulders, the back of our butt and our pelvis, maybe the back of our calves. Then we bring the back of our arms into full contact with the wall. And for some of you, even that could be a stretch. Some of you, your head is just not going to want to come back on top of the rib cage. And for that, I simply encourage you to put a pillow here. Fill the space with something so that the back of your head has contact with some sensory stimulation. Palms forward so that we can feel all 5 fingers contacting the wall. And then just, again, eyes closed and breathe. Just notice contact. Rub a little bit so you feel the skin. Get the sensory kick. All that stimulation is coming through your brain into the extensor tone center in your brain. Then I want you to breathe. And then I want you to start to build pressure. I want you to push your head back into the wall. As you push your head back, see if you can feel your core activate. The harder you press your head back, the more you should feel your abdominal tone fire. Think about lifting your pelvic floor if you can, and then start to add the arms. See if you can actually manage to press all of the hand back and your head at the same time. Resist the urge to let your pelvis push away from the wall. Try and maintain contact. Keep your eyes above the horizon if they're open. Keep trying to press the whole of your arms back. Try and feel that your tummy muscles draw up and in. And keep holding and keep breathing. Go harder if it's feeling too easy. If it's feeling too easy, challenge your arm height. It gets harder as the hands come up higher. You'll feel all of your upper back muscles working. Your pecs, ironically, will get stretched. But you'll be doing that with nice activation of all your sensory inputs on the dorsal column. And that is super powerful for your brain. Oh, it doesn't take long to be exhausted And when you step away in your brain, you'll just feel like this stimulation biases you towards extension. That's the starfish exercise. That's for improving extensor tone, optimizing posture. The movement we did in our morning routine, where we went from rolling to extending, gives you global spinal range, which is equally important. The final thing I'm going to talk about is a word never discussed, which is kind of the most important part of spinal health, is alignment. Alignment is our head literally centered on our rib cage, or is it sitting off a little bit? Is it sitting off sideways? Or is it sitting off forward? Or is it sitting off back? Or is it a little bit rotated? Alignment. Alignment not just of the head, but of the rib cage. Is the rib cage sitting to the side of my pelvis? Is it twisted a little? Is it side bent a little? God forbid, what's my pelvis doing? Is it shifted a little bit? Is it rotated a little bit? Is it hiking or dropping a little bit? Is it stuck, too tilted, too backward tilted? And then, God forbid, is that pelvis doing all of that centered on my feet, or is it off center on my feet? And we talked about that in the video as well. The pelvis ideally sits squarely on our base of support, which is formed by our feet. And then we want to see that the rib cage sits nicely on the pelvis, that it's not off center, that it's not twisted, that it's not rotated. And then hopefully our head stacks on top of that, so that the alignment of our head, rib cage, skull, rib cage, pelvis, and feet is centered. If you have alignment, your spine has minimal stress. 99% of people I see with back pain that's been there, that they're struggling and it's not going away, is largely because they're not in alignment. They have a rib cage, a shift, a side tilt. They usually have multiple planes of motion that are stuck out of alignment. And we spend time working out why. Is it because one eye is more dominant? Is it because one ear is sending a mixed message? Is it because your foot doesn't want to take weight? All of these things factor into creating inputs to the brain, which then can only process all that and give the body the outputs that it needs to figure out where it is in space. These are the missing parts that never get talked about with back pain. And these are the parts that you cannot strengthen your way out of. You can develop a six-pack abs, but if you're all twisted, who cares? It's not helping you. I see that alignment is far more important than strength. In my hierarchy of how we can move from injured to bulletproof, we align first. We take away the fears. We have a great mindset. And once we have all those put to bed, then comes in the exercise physiologist or the personal trainer, and it gets you strong in your new alignment. If you have kinks, twists, alignment issues in your body, and you bring in that strength element first, I see it locks in a lot of stuff that needs to then be unwinded, which is not optimal. I also truly, truly believe that when we're in alignment, we move organically, naturally, without needing excessive strength in any one area. Our movement brings the strength. We don't need to be hot spotting strength into one zone because it's underactive. In my way of thinking, it's only underactive because you're moving in a way that doesn't stimulate it. So why not learn to move in a new way that stimulates it so you don't always have to be chasing it and activating it in the gym? Again, just my way of viewing things. But things I wish to share with you, I guess to educate you, I guess to help you understand that the common messaging for everyone in back pain is that they need to strengthen their core. Well, I don't agree at all with that statement. I think it's lovely to have a strong core, but I would throw my core strength away any day to have alignment and to have mobility, alignment, so that I can move, so that as I'm moving, my strength is developing in response to my movement. There's always caveats to that, but that's the general idea that I hold to. So I guess takeaways from today, do starfish. If you feel your posture needs a reboot, do starfish, but do it in alignment. Use the wall as feedback to help you understand, geez, am I in alignment? Is my head actually centered on my rib cage? When I take my rib cage to the wall, does it feel like there's more pressure on one side, which might be an indicator I'm a bit rotated? Might be that my pelvis feels, one butt cheek feels more flush to the wall, which would be a sign you're a bit rotated. Might be that you have a whopping big gap in your lower back that feels too big, which may be an invitation to play with your pelvic tilt. There's so much feedback that comes from the wall if we use it and tune into noticing what senses it's bringing to the body. I hope that helps. And tomorrow we'll wrap it all up, bring it all together, and hopefully give you some solid steps forward with the new knowledge that you have. You've already been exposed to the big ones, and with any big concept, it takes sometimes a while to fully embody. It can stay in your head as an idea, but to feel it in your body is really what the 6-week course is about. Knowledge without embodiment rarely equals change. But we're sowing the seed, and for some of you, this might be enough. So keep the feedback coming, and I look forward to seeing you day 5.